All right, everybody, welcome back to episode number 7 of our quarantine film series. We are getting into the wide receiver position today, and I wanted to bring someone to your attention that I met coaching back at the University of Massachusetts as one of the best minds that I've been around at the wide receiver position. Let me just give you a quick hitter on who he coached while we were there together at UMass. You might have heard of a guy by the name of Victor Cruz, but he put 3 guys from a UMass team that was FCS at that level into the NFL. Along with Victor, Jeremy Horn, and Jeremy Talley also went on to play in the National Football League. So today with us is Coach Brian Crist. And again, we're going to take a look at the wide receiver position and specifically Chris Godwin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who had a killer year last year. And we're really going to try to dig into what makes him special. And we decided to go underneath 15 yards, a lot of short intermediate stuff with him aligned outside in the slots. We'll dive into all of that. But Coach, great to have you on with us today. What are your thoughts going through this Godwin study?
I appreciate you having me here, first of all, and just a chance to talk football. And since I've been around my 4 kids for the last month and a half, so get out, talk a little football, and enjoy something other than just sitting around and looking out at the yard and saying I got to go mow the grass. Can't get a haircut. Got the Mike Gundy flow going, so.
That is
just looking at him
flow right there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to do. It's getting to the point where it's a hat all day, every day. So
there we go.
Which I guess is not a bad thing, but just looking at him, Dan, last time.
When this is all over.
Yeah, no doubt. I think getting into him is whenever you get into a wide receiver. Just from the standpoint of evaluating, what they can do, how good they are, what are their strengths, weaknesses. When it comes to my mind, even like in recruiting, who can get open, because that's who the ball is going to. And, that was what I always taught our guys was, listen, the quarterback's going to throw the ball to the guy that's open. So your job is to get open the best you can. How are you going to do that? There's different ways. There's different strengths. There's different weaknesses. If you're 6'5", 215, 220, 225, that's easy to get open. You can just use your body and be physical. The smaller you are, the quicker you have to be. You have to be able to change direction. So just looking at him and seeing the different ways that he manipulates, the body control that he has to go along with, quickness and getting in and out of breaks and how he works his stems and all that was interesting to watch.
Awesome. Well, before we dive into the film, as always, have to give a big thank you to the NFL and Game Pass for providing the film free through May 31st. So definitely check that out. Link will be in the description. And also need to say thank you to Telemetry Sports, the tool that we use to make these cut-ups, a fantastic resource. I believe today they have 20 NFL teams using that service. So a heck of a deal there for everybody. But again, we took a look at Godwin. We picked out 2019, so last year's routes, specifically looking at him both slot aligned and outside aligned with routes that have, change of direction. So we didn't just look at the, post-go corner type series to him. We really wanted to see how does he work in congested areas, how does he work in different coverage types, and excited to bring this cut up to you. So again, one of the things that we noticed from him, he's going to be heavily pre-snap motion here, something Tampa did a lot with him. He's got Evans across the way. Evans is up top here, and Godwin typically has a little more erect posture in his stance. So, Coach, one of the things I like to do is just kind of get a little bit of perspective from you, both pre and post-snap, about what you're seeing and some of the mindset that might be going through someone's head. So we're sitting here in a week 1 game. We got San Francisco. Richard Sherman's out here showing a press alignment. What are you installing to a receiver in these kind of scenarios in terms of how to defeat those situations?
Well, it's a little bit different, when it comes to the college and the NFL, just because of the 5-yard bump rule and the hands and whatnot. But obviously you got Sherman, who's one of the better cover guys in the NFL at the time. From my standpoint, stance-wise, like you said, he's a little more direct. At the college level, if we were getting pressed like this, now he's off the ball, which is going to make it a little bit easier. We don't worry about it too much when he's off the ball like this. But that front leg is really locked. I would tell our guys, listen, you're going to false step. I know you are. Now, he's getting paid millions of dollars not to false step, so he may or may not. But, our guys at the college level, we're going to try to get the guys that can't false step or that don't false step are the guys that are going to be playing at this level. The guys that false step are the guys that won't be playing at this level. So here he's in a tighter alignment, which, the NFL has kind of gone to more. Tighter into the tight end or the tackle, just kind of, you see Sean McVay at the Rams does it all the time. But, so here you're telling Godwin, Sherman's going to be looking at it from the standpoint of he's either going to be going out, or he's going to be running some kind of drive mesh concept. Probably that's what Sherman's mind is thinking. I think he runs the out here.
So let's take a look at him.
He ran the go because they had the drive coming, or they kind of have a flat route coming from the other side here. Kind of like they just went naked. The one thing I think Godwin does right here is he does a good job of getting in Sherman's blind spot. If you watch Sherman have to flip his hips around, he's not sure where he's at. So we tell our guys right here, track that hip, chase the hip of that DB so that you get in the blind spot, and then he doesn't know what it's doing. You see Sherman still looking back for the ball. Now, if he'd run it out right there, he'd have been obviously wide open. But Sherman's trying to flip his hips around to get to him. So good job just technique-wise right here, just understanding what kind of coverage you have, what kind of leverage you have, how the Sherman's playing it, because it really ends up not being, you could call it man-free, but it's really more like cover 3 to him.
No, that's a great point about that blind spot. And again, just to bring it back, I mean, you just think about it with peripheral vision. Any of us that driven a car, you have those blind spots where you can't see. And Sherman with his eyes back inside, these things off his butt here, he's going to have a hard time seeing. So I think you make a great point there.
Yeah, really, I'm sure they'd like to say to Sherman, I mean, he has help inside to the post. He really probably needs to maintain that outside leverage and not let Chris get so far outside of him like that.
And this is the route you were talking about coming underneath, which is why it ended up coming that vertical. So we move forward to week 2 here. We're starting off the game, first play of the game here against the division rival. All right, and again, we talked about him heavy in motion. They got 12 personnel with the wing here. And again, you mentioned that they bring him into this tighter alignment very often. What does that give you from a route perspective? What does that change as a play caller? Why do you want them in tighter?
Well, I think there's a couple reasons. A lot of guys, when you get in tight, a lot of defensive schemes, they'll go to a certain check. So I think it's probably a little bit different at the NFL level just because of how much man-free they play. But when we get into it at this level, you're going to see cluster checks where they're going to try to in and out people if there's 2 receivers over there between the linebacker and the corner with the safety over the top. You get a better chance if it is man. Obviously, the closer the tight end and the wide out here, the closer they are, you can run. If it's man, you can run a little more rub routes. It's a little easier to get to. Your out routes aren't quite as far throws for a guy that maybe doesn't have as strong an arm. You can kind of weave a little bit more and use technique a little bit more on your stem. So those are some of the reasons. Then there's things that go in and make it a little bit more difficult too, as far as the quarterback. The closer you bring those wideouts down there, the more defensive guys get down in there. You got to be pretty good at being able to read coverage and understand who's got who and who may blitz and whatnot.
And then when you see a DB out here with this outside leverage relative to the receiver, what's going through your mind here? Because, again, she essentially got a bunch type set offensively with 3 right here. And obviously we have 3 primary defenders that most likely are going to pick them up. But with this guy outside leverage, what are your thoughts?
Well, it kind of depends on what the route is, but regardless of whether I'm going to run an in-breaking route or an out-breaking route, if I'm in tight like this, I have to attack that defender's technique. So what's his leverage? If his leverage like here is on the outside, then I want to try to put my outside shoulder on his inside shoulder. So I want to continue to make him widen, because if he stays outside, just pre-snap, he's telling you that he wants to stay outside. He has help inside with the backer and the safety deep, so he can't let you out leverage him to the sideline. So that being the case, let's stretch him and let's make sure he stays out there. that just widens the window, whether I'm running an out route or whether I'm running the curl or whether I'm running the dig, anything like that.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. So post snap, he does flip that leverage, cheats himself to more of an.
Plays a little game with him. But if you still notice, I mean, he plays a little game with him, but it really wouldn't matter because he really still attacked the original technique, which puts the DB in a little bit of a disadvantage. Now, this is where I think he's really good. He's really good at any of these kind of rolling routes, whether he's rolling in on the dig or he's rolling over his inside foot here on the out route. He's really good right there where you got it paused. At dropping his weight, his nose is over his toe. He's not leaning back. And then really being able to flip his hips and snap his head and eyes around and stay really relatively flat. You see to notice how tight they were to begin with when he was making his break, how tight the corner was. And now the separation, even in 2 steps, as he's already created to the sideline.
We'll let that run at full speed here. So to your point, and he really gets on Dante's toes here. I mean, he gets him in that two-way go.
Yeah, I mean, and that's obviously something you try and talk about is get up on their toes. But, as much as anything, and a lot of guys use that term, I just use that term, attack the technique. If you attack the technique, then obviously you're going to try and run up on them. So we want to try to – it's no different than in that first clip when we said chase the hip. Here he's just chasing the hip in a different manner.
And breaks that thing out. And again, to your point here, we're on the 35, and he's going to hug this thing pretty tight to that. We're no drift to allow the DB to come back underneath.
Well, not just that. If you go back to where he was on the 35, look at this is – I mean, some of this is God-given right here. Look how tight that DB is right there. I mean, he's within what? I mean, it's tough to see on the film, maybe a yard from him right there.
Yeah.
In 2 steps, watch the separation. I mean, now he's 3 yards. I mean, that's as open as you're ever going to be in the NFL. I mean, open in the NFL is usually about a 6-inch window. I mean, if you're that open right there, then you should be getting the ball.
And I like this transition back up field to a runner after the catch too.
Yeah, physical strength.
And
he's really, really good after the catch at putting his foot in the ground and going right up the field. He doesn't have much wasted movement.
And kudos to Logan and Alex on the research side. We actually pulled up a number. He led the league in yards after the catch, 574 with 4.82 yards per catch. Or I'm sorry, yards after per catch. So this guy, this is where he was executing and then adding additional value afterwards.
Yeah, well, this year he'll get plenty of chances to run after the catch, I guarantee you.
Did I hear they have a new quarterback in Tampa Bay?
Yeah, is it Tampa Bay or whatever it is, Tampa Brady or whatever it's called?
Tampa Brady. Here we go. All right, so we jump forward another week. We got week 3 here. It's second quarter play, a 2nd and 2, while Tampa's carrying an 8-point lead here against the New York Giants. And again, just to come back and do some of the formational stuff with him. This is one of his slot alignments. And we got, looks like an inside leveraged DB here.
Yeah, you're probably, you're not based off of what you said on the scoreboard right there. There's 141 left in the second quarter. So a little bit of a 2-minute, I don't know if they were in 2 minutes to get to this point or not. Kind of in the red zone, they probably have, they've got some time. It's not like they need to rush anything. But more than likely, you're expecting some form of man blitz once you get in the red zone. So he's probably getting ready to run I think he's running an under route here where he potentially could get the rub. He's got a hot receiver for Jameis where he can get the ball out of his hands fairly quickly. But he does a really good job watching him pushing up into the defender here.
Yeah, this is, again, to use your terminology, attacking the technique, because if you're running an in-breaking route, you got an inside-the-line DB. Defensively speaking, we're feeling pretty good, right? Because we should be able to stop in-breaking routes with that leverage, and we're going to see how this plays out here.
Yeah, and this is where it gets into a little bit more of the NFL versus the college game. But he does a really good job of squaring the DB up. And now at this point right there, the DB's beat because he can go in or out. And now the DB is just in guess mode. But not just now, he doesn't rush the route. He gets the DB squared up right here. And then he's still going to continue to push vertical where that DB just has to back up. And then he has obviously this again, same thing. In one step, he's flat and he's going toward the middle, creating separation. And he's got a big enough body where he can just box the guy out.
So let that run at full speed for everybody. And again, good placement by the quarterback, but he turns and he puts his head upfield almost immediately.
Yeah, not just, and your head, your feet will follow your head. If you snap your head and shoulders in a direction, then your feet have to follow. It's tough to run a different direction than you're looking. So I think that's an important thing. We talk to our guys all the time. You snap your head and eyes, your body will follow.
And just to see that finish here coming left to right. And gets right there, an extra 2 yards just by snapping his head around.
Yeah.
So bounce forward 2 more weeks. It's week 5. They're at a division rival here in Tampa Bay. We're looking at a 3rd and 11 play on this one. I believe we have them against slot alignment down here. So they go 2 by 2. He's down here with Evans. DBs are showing some different leverage pre-snap.
Yeah, they're kind of joking around with him a little bit. They go into kind of like a one robber look here with that backside safety, coming down. So it's actually pretty good by Jameis here. He's going away from the rotation, which is what you want to try to tell the quarterback here. He's really got either guy. He's got an inside throw. He's got an outside throw. He has good leverage with Chris on the inside. But again, watch him attack the technique right here. So he widens that safety nickel even more away from the Mike linebacker. And then gets vertical and then comes back to the ball.
So that DB was on Godwin's line a second ago, and now he's pushing to the top of the numbers. And again,
all because of the width. That nickel or that backer is thinking, okay, I got help with the Mike inside. And the Mike should be technically probably pushing a little more towards him with that safety coming into the window, the backside window there. Yeah, he should be pushing a little bit more probably. The Saints probably aren't real happy with that. He kind of gets sucked up on the running back, right? Which is really what allows Godwin to get open here. But he does a really good job right here of dropping his weight and not turning, his head and shoulders. We saw a couple of clips later on where he turns his head and shoulders and he kind of gets stuck coming out of a route. But his feet are always up underneath of him here. It's 1-2 to stop, which is impressive. The great ones go 1-2 to stop. The other guys have to chop their feet to slow down, and then that's how they get stuck. Like the wide out here on the outside, if you watch him, he's beating the drum. He's leaning way back. This is not – you watch the two get in and out of a break, it's not even close as far as – they're starting to break down about the same level. But you look at where Godwin is when he finishes, and you look at where the other guy was.
Yeah, it's really an interesting side-by-side comparison on that, having that route concept not mirrored, but both receivers executing it. Because not only does he come out of it faster, but he also comes back to the ball more.
Yeah.
Man, he can sink there.
Yeah, he's impressive.
Now, you mentioned the term body control before. I mean, he really does have that.
Well, he's got really good, when you can break flat like the one we were talking about, and there's some more examples I think that you have, but when you can break flat and you can stop in two, then you've got really good hip flexibility, which is if you're evaluating wideouts, you want to know, what are their hips like? How flat can they, with 1 foot pointing, 1 toe pointing vertical, straight vertical, how fast can that other foot get perpendicular? That's all hip flexibility. And guys that have it are really good route runners. Guys that don't aren't as good.
And we're going to see a lot of that from him here, as long as again he keeps his feet inside of his pads. So we're got a 4th and 1 here. Same game against New Orleans. Tampa's down 14 at this point, and they're showing 22 personnel. So we're the only wideout out here. Again, 4th and 1, critical situations.
I thought this one was impressive just from the standpoint of a lot of guys can be physical. Like he's getting pushed around pretty good right here, but he's able to maintain, if you compare him to the hash, Watch when he releases how close he gets to the hash, but then watch how physical he is to be able to push himself vertical and maintain being vertical, not getting pushed in. Most wideouts are going to get pushed all the way to the hash right here. And then now he's not going to be open because he's going to be sitting behind the linebacker. So that was one impressive thing. The other one is you watch him when he drops his weight, sticks his foot in the ground, his left foot, and is able to create separation with his upper body and being able to get back downhill at the same time. That you talk about body control and athleticism. That's impressive.
That coordination really is, and I like where he comes back downhill too. He knows if he comes inside, he brings that linebacker into play. And he seems
you're creating the window for the quarterback to throw. Yeah, the guy had inside leverage on me, throw it on my outside, so I can go turn up the field right away after the catch.
Now, my defensive side of me is gonna, I'm screaming for the flag here. All right, you just gotta, I'm on the defensive side. I'm screaming for the push off, but I get your points.
Hey, they didn't call it. No push off.
Always get away with it. Give me that OP.
Defensive guys that get away from it too. Just ask the Rams.
And again, we can see it a little bit from this copy. I'll slow it down a bit. But you talked about the hash, right? And this was as tight as he gets. But look at where he's leaning. To your point, to fight his butt back outside and make that window happen. And then again,
that's really good.
We haven't seen him stop, just truly stop on a tackle yet. He's getting that head around and throwing that thing upfield. So we got another game here against Carolina, week 6 now. They've double dipped in the division already. It's a 1st and 10 play here, first quarter. Oh, let me bring it back for everybody. He's slot aligned. Forgot to throw the old circle up for everybody. So we're right here. Again, we've got a step down, or we got a little cushion there. And we got another DB hugging and over the tight end.
Yeah, so he's probably, again, expected man coverage just because of the alignment of that nickel or that Sam backer right there. Being that tight, he's got press on the outside. So to him, he's probably thinking it's going to be man coverage.
And we got outside leverage again here. So assuming there's going to be some funnel into inside help.
Really good job of just working the weave right here. And this is a little different because we've always talked about, we talk about attacking the technique and whatnot, but he's got an over route here. So he doesn't want to widen the guy because obviously that's going to take him away from his landmark. But what he does is once he gets, he takes the initial angle inside and then knowing that the DB is going to close down because he's taking that angle because he's going vertical right up this hash right here for about 3 or 4 steps. And then this is where that hip flexibility comes in. He's going to put his right foot in the ground, and he's just going to go across without really losing anything. So he gets a little closer to the DB, letting the DB kind of clamp down on him, not knowing where he's going to go. Looks like he's going to run a curl route because they do run a bunch of out of this formation. They do run a bunch of deep curl routes where he runs the middle curl. So I'm sure that he's kind of setting it up off of this. That's kind of why he's breaking his feet down right here. And then that safety that's got him, man, is thinking the same thing. And he's able to explode away on the over route.
So again, we've seen a lot of him attacking that technique. He definitely has that skill set.
Really good job here. Once he got out on the other hash, he gets flat. He doesn't keep drifting and let that safety. The safety's going to try to undercut this ball right here, but he can't because of how he stays flat.
And then fights back to the ball.
Yeah. He's got good. Obviously you're not all pro if you don't have very good ball skills. So
I got to say this last part as we talk about body control and balance. So he's going to catch this ball through contact. I just kind of got struck by his ability to keep his feet. A lot of times when you're going to get hit like that after focusing on catching the ball, you might have your feet slide out from underneath you, maybe go down right there. But again, he gets himself up and fights for yards.
Yeah. That's leg strength and, the receivers and really any athlete that plays with his feet up underneath of him and keeps his feet within the body frame, the shoulder frame, those are the guys that are special.
So we're going to see him kind of flash across the bottom of us here and then fights back for that ball. I mean, heck of a job to help his quarterback in that situation. That's not an easy throw for that quarterback going left.
No, he does a good job of getting his left shoulder where he's trying to throw the ball.
We'll take a peek here. We'll take a peek at Mr. Jameis. He's giving these Carolina DBs as much as they can handle these couple games. Unfortunately, his team didn't do much this game, considering it's 27-7 for Carolina here. We're in the third quarter on a 2nd and 3. Inside of the trips. And this is one of those that we had flagged because I could see a lot of people writing this off and saying, whatever, it's a linebacker, who cares? But what are the, help me with kind of the mental part of this for a receiver in these kind of scenarios.
Well, the first thing he's got to know, and, I'm guessing here a little bit, but he goes with a little bit of what we call a pause release. So he's kind of skipping slow motion off the line, which tells me he's got a little bit of a choice route. So he's kind of waiting to see what's going on. What, they're going to go to some form, if you go back, with what he's looking at, this could be cover 2. They could be going on Tampa 2 where Kuechly's running down the middle of the field, and I think you'd see him break in. So that's why he's kind of going with the pause release, seeing kind of what's going on with these two backers here. Now, as the backers just drop, he's telling himself, okay, it's not Tampa 2. It's either cover 2 to my side or it's cover 4 where they're playing quarters. And I think that's what he's anticipating. I think he's anticipating that Sam linebacker running out, trying to get out underneath the number 1 out there. That's why he turns out. Now, I'd like to see him kind of, and you'll see him do this later on, but I'd like to see him kind of widen this thing a little bit more and get a little bit farther away from Kuechly, because I've seen that dude make way too many plays.
So again, this is where he starts it, but when you're talking about pushing to create.
Yeah, if he could just pushed out almost kind of trail release that number 2 receiver and then turn and sit, it would have put a little bit more pressure on that Sam linebacker. But I mean, it's 2nd and 3, so I'm sure this is, hey, they're telling Jameis, if he's open, give him the ball. There's no need to wait for anything else. Let's get a first down.
And again, we'll see him turn and convert upfield after that catch. So Tampa's put a few more points in the game, but this is just the game's still not going their way here. So now we're in the 4th quarter, and we got a 2nd and 10.
Yeah, that's him in the slot, correct?
Yes.
Up top. Here is a little bit different. It's not as good a route as he's been running as far as the 1-2. He starts to turn his shoulders here, more before his feet stop. But it's still, he gets out of it pretty quick, but he's kind of turning. I think this is one of their more favorite routes when they're down in distance. They kind of run this all curls, all hooks deal. And they threw it hot to the tight end. They had blitz, so he was just throwing it hot to the tight end. He thought he was going to beat Luke Kuechly, but that's almost impossible.
Luke was a heck of a player. There's no doubt about it.
We played him at Boston when we were at UMass, and he was at BC. On the first play of the game, he made the tackle. We ran like outside zone, and he ran down the tailback for like a yard gain. We came back and ran a corner route, and he almost picked the corner route on the next play. I thought, there's no way this dude can do that. But, so maybe I'm not the best guy. He was unbelievable.
Guy. He was a special guy. I'm really, obviously it's his decision, but we're going to miss him playing football here moving forward. So you had mentioned this point before, and I kind of wanted to pause it here and do that. And again, we're going to bring up some plays that, we're highlighting a lot of things he does well, but we did want to draw attention to a couple of the areas where some things broke down, because we've seen a lot of these two-step be really, really clean, and you're going to see this, his footwork it doesn't. His feet get stuck because, as you mentioned, he gets those shoulders around before he gets his lower body through.
Yeah, and so what that causes it to do is that left, in this case, the left foot gets way away from his body right there. It's going to get outside of his framework, and it's if you've got your foot outside your framework, it's awful hard to put your right foot in the ground and drive back the ball, because you want to drive back. Technically, you'd like to drive back with your right foot back to the quarterback. But if your left foot is so far out in front of you, you can't do that. It's not going to be, physically it's impossible. So you have to take an extra step and get your right foot up underneath of you, and then you cross over. So we just tell them they're getting stuck, getting out of the route.
And so we did see this in making this cut up a few times. It wasn't every snap, but occasionally, he'd get a little rushed and he would get himself stuck. So we'll bring this thing forward here. We're still trying to catch up to Carolina.
Yeah, that's why you got a lot of routes. They got a lot of throws in this game.
They do. So we get him a different formation here. All right, we got 3-by-1 to this side.
Here's another example. Watch, if you can slow down, watch his right foot here. See, now here his feet, they stay underneath of him, but you can see right there in that picture, his head and shoulders are already started to turn. His feet are still trying to stop. He's leaned way back. So people tell people sit in a chair. I don't use that term, because if you sit down in a chair, your hips and your back are usually behind your feet. I don't ever want my hips behind my feet. I want my hips over top of my feet. So we talk about there's a string attached from your nose to your toes. So when your toes jab down in the ground, that should pull your head and your face mask down to your toes. And that keeps your shoulders and your hips and everything over top of your knees and your ankles. All right, so he gets here. Now, because of this, because he's already started to turn, he's going to actually almost like we tell him run around the top of the route. So if you watch him from where he's at, he's actually going to take about 3 or more steps, and it's actually going to look like a little bit of a hook, whereas it should look like he's set down and goes straight back. And that's where the ball kind of surprises him, because timing-wise, this is pretty good timing by the quarterback, but he kind of runs around the top of the route. You see him catch the ball. It's great ball skills, but his feet are all messed up. He's off balance and whatnot, because it wasn't a great top of the route that he ran. The ball kind of surprises him, which, like I said, it's great ball skills, but the ball kind of surprises him. Then he's just a beast afterwards.
It really does. It's funny how the first half of the play, where the top of the route doesn't go the way he'd want it, and then the second half of the play, he's going to get a bunch of good marks for how he catches this and finishes this thing. And I got to imagine you may not be excited about the placement of this throw by the quarterback relative to the DB there.
No, you'd like to think this is going to hit him in the chest, but I think he feels this edge guy coming free. So he's like, I'm getting rid of this ball. But yeah, you'd like to see him sitting there and drive the ball. I don't think he'll have to worry about it next year. I think that ball will be in between the 1 and the 4 or whatever number it is.
Yeah, I still the terms come out on that. I got to look at the final terms of how he got 12 out of Godwin here. I think there was a big donation to charity, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there's also 6 Super Bowl rings.
Yeah, that helps. You knew it was going to go down. It was just more of what exactly was going to be the pull out of there. Sorry, we're right back here again. Number 2 here in the trips formation.
This is really, he's attacking the technique. This is against Carolina. Carolina runs just a lot of this drop down safety, where they're dropping that weak side safety. You must be trying to. Tampa throws a lot of the ball in the middle of the field, so they're trying to take it away, I guess. But he attacks the technique, and now, Kuechly's hanging on the tight end a little bit. And again, I don't know if he's trying to read that running back, what's going on with the running back. So that helps as well, because the running back kind of tried to chip the D in there. But with where they're at, he does a better job widening and getting vertical and then sitting it down. So he's created a lot of space away from that Mike linebacker.
Absolutely. And just to show the difference in the top of the route, I mean, these last two are very similar in terms of the type of route. And this one, obviously, when he gets it all together, it's sudden.
Right.
And then
He just does a good job of staying on the scramble drill and staying flat.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that consistent you were saying, putting the tape together on him, is how flat he does. He doesn't float. He's a good asset to the quarterback that way. So we're finally out of that Carolina game. Move forward to week 8 here against Tennessee. All right, he's tucked right in behind here. And this reminds me of that first play against Sherman in San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly. Watch it. And this is from a tight alignment. So this is why you were asking a little bit earlier why tight alignments and whatnot. Because of the bunch, here, Tennessee's kind of, it almost looks like they've gone to a cluster check. It almost looks like the corner's not sure what they're doing here. Just kind of by his body language. Am I playing the flat? Am I supposed to be going? What am I doing here? Because based off of what the safety's doing, I'm not sure the corner should be bailing like he is. But again, I'm not there. I don't know. But, he does a really good job. When he gets in the blind spot, still pushes vertical and then snaps. You see his head and his eyes around right now, where he can get flat. He's making that break at about the 34-yard line. I think he drifts up to about the 35 maybe.
And again, just to point out what you did before, the space at this point, and then the space when he puts that foot in the ground and snaps his head around.
Yeah, I think he may even work back to it a little bit. He drifts a little here just because the ball wasn't thrown. But, I mean, his body is ready to go flat down and even come back down to the 34 if he needed to.
Great job about attacking that technique. So not everything was a target on this one, folks. Those are fun tapes, but we wanted to see some other things in this one. Seemed like that was there for Mr. 3.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly why he goes to the back right here.
Thank goodness for his line breaking up the interception there.
Yeah, maybe you couldn't see that far. I don't know.
So Tampa Bay is holding on to a 3-point lead. Third quarter, 37. Again, here the posture is what it was my giveaway watching him. He's the guy straight up and down. He does a lot of that, hesitation, release, skipping into it, or however you want to phrase that.
Yeah. Actually, I think they got a 6-point lead because you can't add. You got that New York education.
Education, all right?
Yeah, he does a good job here. Again, it's if you remember the one that we saw where he didn't get washed to the hash against the Saints. He does the same thing here. He gets on the outside shoulder of this guy because he knows he's got the outbreaking route, and he's able to push up and it right here he goes almost vertical right here on these numbers. As he goes vertical, then when he goes to separate, because he closed that cushion down. I mean, they were shoulder to shoulder here. Watch him get out of the break and be flat. He's going to create another about 3 yards of separation. And again, you see when the ball is thrown, there's not much separation. You're just trusting the wideout. Here's the quarterback. But you got to create that separation. This is really the only place he has to go with the ball is to him. So this is where the ball needs to be thrown. It's good timing here. Good route. This is like their favorite route on third down.
And he runs the crap out of it here. Again, coming out. I mean, so sudden when he comes out of it. He snaps that around. Here's the DB. It's hard to play that and transition back downhill from that standpoint.
Yeah.
It's a heck of a play.
He does a good job. When you're running this route, when you've got man like this, you got essentially it's not press man, but it is press man. You've got to break it flat when that guy's the guy that's playing you man to man. With that kind of leverage. Now you'll see other times where we wouldn't break it flat. If they get in that trail technique, we would take it higher than that. But with where the guy was leaning on him right there, then that's when you kind of want to push into him and then snap it flat.
And then go out and snag it away, make sure it's yours. So let's see if I can get the score right this time, all right? Tampa Bay's down 4.
There you go.
I got the math right on this one. Listen, the 3rd and 7 tripped me up, all right? I mixed numbers. I get you guys. But we're in fourth quarter now. Obviously trying to get back and get some points on the board here. And again, we're in 2-by-2. He's inside.
I think this is just, he's going to stay on the scramble drill here. Good job, just a double swipe in his hands, getting off the.
See if we can pause that and help people see that. That's a nuanced thing there. It's really the film quality here from Tennessee was not ideal, but you're going to see his right arm chopped down on here and help really bring him around on that route.
Yeah, I mean, and again, he's able to bend. He must have unbelievable hip flexibility because he's able to bend and get into angles that a lot of guys can't. Well, while you're being pushed to get around a guy this way, I mean, he almost slingshots himself around flat. But right here's the release with the two hands off the release. Does a good job of getting his right hand and right shoulder out of the way off the press.
And then we just watched him in this matchup take that route out off this vertical stem because you made the point where he's going to push this thing vertical. We just saw him break it out. I'm not surprised the DB was biting on that.
Well, and especially as much as they run that route.
So the DB starts leaning a little bit, feeling like he's gotten burned on that out route before, and boom, slingshot right around. It's these nuanced things. This is the reason why I was excited that you wanted to study them, because this is the stuff that, it's the small detail work. I've always been appreciative of the term craftsman when it comes to playing receiver. Some people get really infatuated by the linear stuff, the explosive numbers, from a foot speed or an acceleration standpoint. But it's all these little things that you talked about, keeping the head and the toes on a string and keeping that body posture and how to use your hands and how to stem and attack technique. All those things that you're mentioning are reasons that this guy has produced that are just straight athletic ability. Well,
yeah, good. I mean, those
neutral is, but
all good points. I mean, I think that's all evaluation. I mean, I don't. We talk all the time, and all the guys I've coached that have either played in the league or whether they didn't play in the league and they made all conference here or there or wherever. We talk about you got to perfect your craft. I know by the time you're a senior or junior, I mean, if we call a play, you better know what you're running. I mean, that's not perfecting your craft. Perfecting your craft is being able to try new things and figure things out and how to work people and how to work coverages and whatnot. That's perfecting your craft. And if you want to be professional, then you have to have that kind of approach to it all.
So we saw that first week against San Francisco, Sherman in this kind of alignment. So now we got him against Seattle, which has a similar defensive philosophy here. So let's see what he does against, again, a tight aligned DB.
I mean, obviously he's really good off the ball. Now I don't know, the DB kind of try to sneak a peek at the ball, so he kind of loses him. But I think that based off of what the DB's doing and how he's looking, it's almost like he's trying to get in a trail technique to him.
Yeah, which would be great if he were tighter underneath, so he could have played under these things. But DB,
right?
This is not good here. This is just the difference in these guys breaking down. You talked about the chopping. You were doing the Evans Godwin comparison before.
Right.
This is that tight body posture, head over toes that you mentioned. And then this guy's upright. And just let's watch how many steps it takes the DB to do the same break. I mean,
he's behind, he's behind Godwin and goes all the way past him. And then you can compare it on the other side too. This is Evans on the other side, just a bigger body. It's just tougher. He's a chop your feet, beat the drum with your hands, sit down in the chair. God, I mean, at 6'6", it's hard not to be.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to bash the guy at 6'6" for doing it that way. That's impressive for him there, as you're saying. But it's just a different body type executing that.
Right. And you can get away with when the guy's that far off of you, because people are afraid of his speed and being back shoulder fade and all those kinds of things with that big body it is. A guy that's pressed up on him, that's going to be a little bit harder.
It's a heck of a combination Brady's walking into here. And that tight end, Howard's a pretty good player too.
Yeah.
So we're not going to see Godwin here on the target side of things. So again, pushing forward in this game, we got a second quarter situation. Tampa is up 7, 2nd and 9. Getting that motion in to a tight split. Not really getting set much before the snap there.
No, we probably get a penalty in college.
So
now here's the opposite of him. You know, those clips that we looked at, he never really attacks the technique. He doesn't ever get on the, in that blind spot. Now it's a little harder because the DB's off more, but really he's got to stay on the right here. He goes vertical, and I don't know if he was trying to sell the post and maybe try to get the DB to open his hips, which is possible, but it doesn't. The DB doesn't, and now he's so far inside of him that he's running this outbreaking route. He can't get on the outside of it, and the DB is going to beat him to the cut.
Absolutely. And that's one of those things. That's why we picked this one, is to show some of the difference. And when you don't get that guy manipulated, again, he has all this skill set, and it's still not going to get him to separate in the NFL unless you can also stack all those things on top of each other. Also just get to a situation where his feet get out away from his body here on this break.
Yeah, I'm guessing that, he probably was trying to manipulate him. He was trying, like I just said, he was probably trying to do something different. Like, I think, you all had said he catches a bunch of post routes and whatnot in general. Maybe he was trying to sell the post a little bit more, and that's why he went vertical, and it just didn't work. Fortunately, they weren't throwing it to him, so I guess that's a good thing. But, you want to try to get on that outside leverage of him. Even if he were running a post, I'm not sure I would have gone vertical.
All right, so again, we're going to see again. I love the difference in Evans here in the stands, and Godwin in the stands. It's
like he would drive me crazy.
So 1st and 10 here, 4th quarter. So what did you see on this one?
I mean, again, this is a really good release, really good physical release, because he created a lot of separation right here, basically with just a right arm. So he's obviously got some upper body strength. That DB gets his feet stuck in the ground because he almost tried a 2-hand jam instead of 1-hand jam. This is where I would say he does a good job off the release of getting vertical right there and not like just staying on the angle. Too many guys, when they come off of a press like that and they avoid a guy, they'll just stay on an angle. But he does a good job. He even works back for a little bit of width after he gets through there, which is good. Now, I still think he probably runs around the top of this route too much. Like, to me, that's too much of a, around the top instead of straight back down the stem. But he does get in the window. I mean, he may have felt the underneath linebacker going to the flat, and so he knew, I'm going to get in behind this linebacker.
I really like this one step that he takes here, this jab step outside, because you mentioned the 2-hand jam here from the corner. That corner is floating outside, it seems like, to match that jab step when he tries to land his hands.
Well, yeah, I mean, anytime a DB right there reaches with 2 hands, then you should beat him. Because if a DB does that, a DB can't – it's almost impossible to reach somebody with 2 hands and not stop your feet at the same time. And if you stop your feet, especially against guys like this, if you stop your feet up there at the line of scrimmage, there's no way you're going to be able to run with them after the fact. You're going to have to open your hips to run, and then you're going to be beat. We always tell that's what we always tell the wideout is, if you're going against press, you have to make them move their feet, because if they move their feet, they're just as liable to false step because they're reacting to you. If you let them sit there with their feet up underneath their shoulders inside their framework like that, you're going to lose more often than not. But you make them move their feet, which is what he does here with that jab step. He makes the guy move his feet, and then he gets off balance. He has to jam with 2 hands. Now his feet stop. Now he has no chance.
And this reminds me of that New Orleans play we saw where he pressed himself back on the line, and you made the comment that he put his left foot in the ground and got off with his left hand and created separation in both ways. His ability to use his feet and his hands simultaneously is – I wouldn't say it's like rare, but it's uncommon.
Well, it separates good ones from the great ones.
Really impressive stuff. So I'll move one play forward here. So now we jump another week. We're in Arizona, 2nd and 22. Not exactly the best down and distance for the old play sheet. We're stacked in up here behind Evans.
So he does a really good job. Again, here's your, now you got to stack instead, not necessarily a tight alignment, like we've been talking about some of the other ones, but you got a stack deal. So you got to manipulate him again. He's going out. Obviously, they're showing cover 2. The safety works out over the top, so it stays cover 2. And then he works that corner for width, knowing that he's going to in and out that corner with that tailback. So this is a spacing concept that almost everybody runs, with one guy going in, one guy going out, and then one guy going wide. So he knows that all he's got to do is he's got to stay on the inside shoulder of that corner, and the quarterback's going to, if he gets that far in the progression, that's who he's going to read, and they're just going to play in and out. It's like playing keep away, monkey in the middle. Right? So I'll widen this guy as wide as I can. I'll turn on his inside shoulder, knowing that I'm going to stay away from that other linebacker, and now should make it an easy read for the quarterback.
Because the corner can't be in two places at one.
No, I'm not sure why. I'm not coaching Jameis. We read it inside out. So as soon as we see Tampa 2, we would have banged it to that. We would have banged it to, I think that's Evans or whoever that is. We'd have banged it to that guy right there on the hash now.
Gotcha. But, yeah, especially when you see that middle player dropping like that.
Yeah, anytime you get Tampa 2, that's where you got to be a little bit careful with his backside tight end. But the ball should be out right now. Yeah, backside linebacker. Sorry, the ball should be out right now. He should be catching the ball right there for a first down. Well, 2nd and 22, I guess not a first down. But
we would have got some yardage back at least. Made a more reasonable 3rd down situation.
Get half of it, maybe get 11.
Actually, to me, it's a good job here by the weak side players you mentioned, pressing that way to take that away, because obviously Jameis is locked and loaded to his left.
Yeah, well, that again, another coaching point I make to the quarterbacks, our quarterbacks, is you've got to hold those guys in the middle of the field when you're running spacing. So his eyes should have stayed down the middle of the field a little bit longer.
So 2nd quarter, Tampa's carrying a 1-point lead on a 3rd and 5. We're going to see him out here. And again, we're going to motion down. We're going to get to that bunch set. He gets to use his skip release.
Yeah, so they're switching. They know they're getting man. They're trying to get some picks set. It's a good job here, again, of squaring the DB up. He knows he's got an in-breaking route, but he's releasing outside. So he does release outside, but he goes and gets right down the middle of the DB. Now he's got a two-way go on that safety, that nickel guy covering. And he does a good job here. It's same as always. He's putting his left foot in the ground. He's kind of running a slant, but you see his nose right there going right down to his toes so he can get out of that break.
And then settles and continues to work back for the quarterback and finishes as a blocker. I like you calling out the string from the nose to the toes piece, because you can see it on that one clear as day when he gave him a snap and he tucked that chin. So staying in this Arizona game, Tampa puts 3 more on the board. They're up 4 here, 2nd quarter. We're up top.
I thought this one was one of the best ones as far as, he manipulates him a little with the outside release, And this is, again, sometimes you attack the technique because of wanting to get squared up, but then other times, this guy's way inside of it. Well, he's way inside. Who's going to play? If he were to break on the out, who would play it? The corner would have to play it. So the corner is he releases outside on this wide depart stem, the corner has to almost overrun the top of him because he's got to cover the out route. So knowing that you can release outside away from the technique of the defender, which now that DB's got you can see his hips open. and then he can come back up underneath nice and easy.
And just how flat he comes out of this.
Right. This is, I mean, again, that's hip flexibility. I mean, there's not many guys that do it that way.
I mean,
Put it this way: there's no guys that are in that league that do it that way.
I'm counting up in my head like the number of things that you could put on a teach tape from this. So, to your point, we have the stem, the widening of them, the jab step to get him open, the ability to cross face with his hands, strength to push through, breaking flat. Oh, and by the way, adjusting back to the ball. He's got one or two things that may help at wide receiver. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about 5 tools. There you go.
Really something else. Again, that idea of craftsman stacking things. He's not a one-trick pony. He doesn't go out there and do one thing. He builds these things on top of each other. Again, we're going to – I didn't mark them up ahead of time. Let me get the bag for everybody. Hold on. I got you. So we're going to hear number 2.
So here's one where, again, I think this is one of the Bucks. They run this one a bunch too. It's off the old Hank concept that everybody runs. It's just a deeper version. But, here I think there's another clip where we had talked about a clip where they had that cover 2 look where that safety bailed or the Mike turned and ran, so you're replacing him. Now here he's got to know it's not cover 2, even though it looked initially like it could be cover 2. They're playing a walk down safety over top of him, so he recognizes that it's not Tampa. He recognizes the safety is the guy that's going to play him, so that's who he's trying to manipulate. He just never closes the cushion enough on that safety, never threatens him enough vertical, and it allows the safety to drive on this route right here.
And then gets a little stuck coming around on this one versus some of the things we've seen.
Right.
Gave the DB even a greater chance of playing over the top because he'd been more sudden about coming back downhill, and he's still stuck up top while that DB's coming around, and he actually creates the interception there.
Yeah, I mean, I think he just never. I mean, he got to his depth. I'm sure that's what he's thinking. I'm at my depth, but it's not the best top of the route that he's run.
And a good play by the DB. They get paid too. We'll give him credit where credit's due.
No, I don't give him credit.
Again, you offensive guys. There's one of Jameis's 30.
Yeah, see, he should only have 29. That's not Jameis's fault. Come on now.
And he wouldn't have been in the 30-30 club. All right. So 3rd and 4 here. We're going to play New Orleans again, but this time Tampa is at home.
Looks like Drew Brees has already had a heck of a day already. So
always, and there's that's a constant. So again, just these scenarios where the choices in the route and the reading off the defender's coverage diagnosis, all those kind of things. I'm always interested in getting people's takes on them in these scenarios.
Yeah, so I'm guessing right here with the route, they're actually, I think what they're probably trying to do is high-low this Mike linebacker that's running. He started running with number 3 down the middle here, and then he comes off. But I think they must be trying to high-low him with number 1 and number 2. Jameis gets flushed, or I think he would dump the ball right here. Now, this is one of those deals where you're kind of the underneath guy. There's not much you can do. You sit there and like to say, okay, well, maybe he should have attacked the technique of the corner, but not really. If the play was designed to high-low that backer, you don't want to get too wide because then that backer is just going to let you go to the corner. So, I think he's where he needs to be based off of the play. I think the pressure is what actually causes this not to be thrown to him right away. But the ball should, as soon as that linebacker started running, the ball should be coming to him.
So just one of those things where you start studying receivers' ability to diagnose coverage and things that these landing points, and the relationship that he builds between these two defenders are some tips that we can look at to make that determination.
Yeah. I think the back should have picked this up. He should have been able to throw the ball.
Yeah, that's again. I would imagine the film study the next day was not pleasant from that standpoint.
Yeah, he got hung up on that. He had that inside backer, but that inside backer dropped right away. He should have been on that outside guy right now.
So Drew goes out. New Orleans is carrying 13 points here. 2nd and 6, second quarter. Again, he's motioning it up top. And we've seen this one before.
Little screen.
But I was interested in your take on this, just with a different technique from the DB, because the DB gets himself open with his hips pointed in.
Yeah, I mean, if he were running a post right now or whatnot, I mean, the DB, I don't know why he squares himself up right here. I'm sure they're not real happy with that either. That's why he's grabbing. But, he pushes the guy out easy enough. I mean, the play's going away from me. It's nice that the DB just jumped outside for him.
There you go.
That don't look like the Patriots screen.
They got a whole bunch coming to them this year. All right, so we got a motion again up top, same game. New Orleans now up 20-0. Want to see a little different release here.
Well, he just almost, I think this is in game order, right?
Yeah.
So he just used the same motion and gone inside. So now the DB's kind of guessing, okay, where are you going to go? You're going to go inside? And he kind of gives him that initial, yeah, I'm going inside. But then, nope, I'm able to jump. I don't ever teach to swim like he's doing, because what we'll talk about, and he does a good job here, we don't swim. Because if you say swim, you're talking about bring your arm all the way up and over, which is going to expose your chest and your sides. So we talk about punch through. So you're going to see him take his left hand right here. He's actually going to punch through. I mean, it's kind of elbow. I mean, your elbow is going to be up, but it doesn't swing. Your hand doesn't swing way up. Your hand stays low. Your elbow comes up. And that allows him to get, stack this guy, get up into this guy's body more, and be able to push vertical.
That's some good stuff right there. And then again, the target, just because you create opportunity doesn't mean the target's going to come your way.
Well, you tell receivers, if they can tell where the ball is being thrown because of how you're running the route, then you're not doing a very good job.
So we get here to 3rd and 4. New Orleans up 20-7. Down here.
I don't know. Obviously, he doesn't think he's the primary. I don't know if this was a called delayed to the tailback, which it might be. I don't know if pressure got him, but he's getting doubled really. So I'm thinking he's probably thinking, okay, I outside the release, the safety's over the top. I'm just going to run people off. But what we teach receivers and what you want to do, whether it's a run, or a pass, whatever. But if somebody breaks free from the line of scrimmage right here and is running with the ball, we always tell the wideout, block up the field. There's no need, and in today's game, you're going to get a penalty if you come back and blindside somebody anyway. But you got to rely that the guy that's got the ball is going to make the first guy miss, And if he'd have kept coming down here towards the sidelines, we get the block right there. There's a lot of room to run all the way to that safety. So we tell them always turn and block up the field. You're not going to block in the back. You're not going to get a crackback penalty anymore. So turn and block up the field.
And he does finish making a little bit of contact.
Yeah, he said, my contract doesn't state. I only got to touch him.
I'm here to catch passes. So now we move forward, week 12 in Atlanta. Atlanta's
go back there. This is what, early second quarter?
Yeah, early second quarter.
The Falcon fans are not, the Dirty Bird fans are not out in force there.
Let's bring it back. No, we had either a few too many at the concession stand or a few too many at home on the couch.
Yeah, they're done in Buckhead right now.
And this is
this is like all of them combined. This is like one of the best routes. I mean, he starts the trail release like we were talking about earlier. This is kind of a deep V cut. We used to run this all the time with Victor Cruz, but it's double out routes, deep out routes. One really deep, one pylon route, and then one shorter route. But he kind of gets cut off trying to go down inside, which is fine. So he says, okay, I'm going to go vertical and show him that I'm going over the top of him on the cross route. And then he says, nope, I'm more skilled than you. I can put my foot in the ground and get back out here. And that's as good as it gets right there.
Comes out, and there is nobody nearby. Really, really well done. I just
I'd like to think he could catch it. Yeah.
Cross face, stem him in, break it out, catch away from the body.
Well, and if you go all the way back, here's where he's, as a receiver when you're talking about it, is right here pre-snap. Okay, I'm not the guy that's pressed. I'm the outside receiver. The corner is, 12 yards off. I mean, they can play this a couple different ways. They can put the press guy on the point that he's already pressed on and roll the corner down. They can play him on me. They could just go zone and in and out it. There's a couple different things that he's got to do. So that's why on this trail release right here, he does a really good job. He recognizes it really quick that they went to what we call shadow technique, meaning that point guy, that defensive guy is going to take the guy that's in the back of the stack and play him. So he recognizes it really quick, says, okay, this is a mismatch, me on you, gets outside and gets vertical.
Heck of a job. All right, I'm doing it again. I want to see it again. We're bringing it back. One more time.
Just a lean to show him that he's going over the top, knowing where he's going to go out. The guy got abused because he's pulling on his helmet already.
Yeah, he's a little bit down about it. There's no doubt. We get to see his feet a little bit here, so let's try to slow this down. All right, here's the matchup up here in this corner. Again, there's that knot inside that you're talking about. Gets 20 leaning that way, and meanwhile, as soon as he gets him leaning that way, it's left foot in the ground, and we're out.
Yeah.
What a snag.
Shouldn't have been that hard.
You might want a guy like this on your roster. I could see this being useful.
Yeah.
Another 3rd and 4 here. Fourth quarter. Tampa carrying a 12-point lead. No, let me bring it back here. He's up in the bunch.
Just running a little mesh. But again, you can watch him stem, get vertical, how he sets the guys up. Again, you don't know how they're going to play this in this bunch. They actually messed it up.
Oh, I apologize. I marked the wrong guy. I think he's the point man.
Is he? I mean, so it's it's a good job of beating the point. He actually takes 2. Because it almost not knowing how they're going to play it. If this were man, you could almost set a rub route right here. So he ends up taking 2. The point guy is playing him, so he says, okay, I'm going to jump back inside of it. And again, watch him go flat right here.
That's a pretty open guy for bracket coverage.
Yeah, I mean, now you'd sit there and say, hey, Jameis, throw the ball to the underneath mesh guy like you should. But, I mean.
He got flushed. Little protection issue in the back end.
Or the old left tackle.
This is what we're talking about. Was really impressive. That's why we brought this one in. I apologize. I forgot he was the point man. But again, getting inside, then seeing eyes on him here, and boom, crossing his face. Really well done. We'll look at the back. We'll actually see what this pocket looks like for Mr. Winston. Yeah, that's going to be a rough one.
Well, he doesn't have any business with left tackle. I mean, he should be getting out of there. And not only unless he thinks there's a twist coming or something. because the center's working the 45, so he doesn't have to worry about a backer inside. Looks like he may be looking for a twist.
I don't think that left foot going back like that's ever how they install that.
No.
Good job by Winston fighting his ass off to get out of there. But that's the reason why we missed the crosser. All right, same game here. Tampa's carrying a 12-point lead now, fourth quarter. Again, the posture hasn't given it away by now. We're up top. You talked about the head on a string.
Yeah, just nose over toe right here. I mean, like if I had the John Madden Zoom cam and like I could circle it like 100 times, you know.
I mean, that's a compact profile there. I mean, I can't even get the cursor in to draw anything. He's so over his toes.
Yeah, so like the way you drew it, you know, the way his body looked, almost like I'm at home doing third grade math, greater than, less than sign right there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, versus, you know, remember those ones where you were drawing when they were talking about sitting in a chair and it looked like a chair, you know? Yeah. I mean, you'd rather have your body look like that getting out of a break than looking like that. So greater than a chair equals a good route.
Takes the outside release, takes it vertical, snaps out of it, and it could have been right there for him if they wanted it. But Mike does a pretty good job down here.
Yeah, just different because he actually kind of gets stuck. See him kind of why he ends up diving for the ball, because watch when he comes out of it. See, he's kind of stuck right there and then reacts to the sideline.
Sure.
Versus Godwin's already on the way to the sideline, you know.
Yeah, he had his eyes there the whole time. He was waiting on that one. But we've seen 20 have a rough day, so probably a good matchup for him anyway.
Yeah.
So week 13, Jacksonville, motion in here again, that tight split. Again, just attacking the technique.
Yeah, he attacks it, you know. This is, you know, if you went back, remember the one he got stuck on, you know, in that corner, because even here he never gets outside the corner. But there's enough cushion right here when he goes vertical that he's gotten that corner is already starting to crossover run, so he's going to be able to get out on the outside route of him again on the breakout. Versus that other guy had his feet up underneath of him and was more square and was able to catch him when he came out.
Yeah. No, the thing was Seattle, and he was, again, squared up, back facing the quarterback. Facing the quarterback. And so he was able to play that thing down. To your point here, get the DBs in this skate, this crossover run, and he's done. He's done. And I'll bring that all the way back.
But he comes out flat. I mean, you know.
So just looking at Lamb,
really
from that initial alignment to how he stems this thing out. Then vertical, then breaks him.
Well, I think either we have one or we saw one, you know, where he just actually never got vertical and he just kind of kept running out there and the DB just ran with him because there was nothing to it. The vertical push right here, if he's run a bunch of posts on different routes, which we didn't put on there, but if he's run a bunch of different post routes and whatnot, that's going to get that guy turning and running. So he can, you know, he can put two routes together and run them the same way so that he has different results. You know, you can kind of bait those DBs into thinking one thing when he's going to do the other.
I think this is the point I was excited to make with this study was when a lot of people come into evaluation and they hear about good route runners, people get really hyper-focused on just the break point. You know what I mean? Like just at the top of the route. And I'm not diminishing the top of the route. We haven't diminished it yet. But how many coaching points have you made that had nothing to do with the top? It was everything leading up to the top or the angle that he came out of it.
Well, there's you know, as we say, there's phases to running a route. And each phase is just as important. You have the stem, which is a phase. You have the break point, which is a phase. And then you have the finish, which is the phase. So if you only do two of the three, it very well may not be very successful. I mean, if you run if the first phase and second phase are good and you drop the ball, who cares how good a route you ran? You know, I mean, I guess you can say if you finished, if the last phase is good and you catch it, then hey, great. But if you catch it for 9 yards and it should have been 12 yards, and you phase 1 and phase 2 were bad, and you end up or 4th and 2, I'm not sure the coach is going to be real happy with it.
No,
I know I'm not.
And I like the way you broke that up, because actually that translates to some other positions. Howard Mudd, when he installs O-line, talks about the 3 phases to a block. Position, fit, and finish, or he calls them fast, slow, fast. So those kind of things that, seems like these rules of 3 populate over and over again. But Chris has been good in every one of these phases.
Yeah.
And of course, right as we sit here and compliment him, this was one that was not on the best routes he's run list.
No, because here he's, if he wants to attack out, which I don't, like if I were coaching him and I said, because we run this route and so does everybody in football, and I think the Bucs run it like 95 times on 3rd down or 2nd and long. It must be the one play Jameis remembered from Florida State. But, if he attacks out, he stems out. Unlike the other ones, he never got vertical. So he just stays on that outward angle, and the DB's like, okay, I know you're not doing – you haven't set me up. You haven't squared me up. You haven't shown me your shoulders, being parallel to the line of scrimmage again. I'm just going to run underneath of you because I know where you're going.
And I'm wondering if this is one of those, they got a 25-point lead, 14 seconds to halftime. We didn't put in every bit of effort didn't quite go into this one.
Well, yeah, and he probably, he's thinking, okay, I'm just going to get to the sideline and hopefully catch it, stop the clock.
And DB's able to be underneath that. So now we get into the 3rd quarter of this game. Jacksonville's only got 3 up on the board. Seeing number 2 here. Just again, you talked about that deep curl.
Yeah, and he kind of manipulates the guy, even though it's a man concept coverage here. He keeps him on his outside shoulder, gives Jameis plenty of room, to the inside window if he wants to throw him the ball. Which
and 1-2, head over toes, and right back out.
Yeah. I'd like to know why Jameis isn't throwing the ball, honestly. Unless he's taking the 1-on-1, maybe.
Pretty good window.
I mean, they're blitzing from this side over here. And you say throw into the blitz, but not if it's blitz rolling the coverage, that way. So
Evans can make a lot of plays. Sorry, not Evans. I think it's Watson there. I mean, he's on that the whole way. He's
just taking a 1-on-1 because of the blitz. He's up 25-3. He's trying to throw another touchdown. Get in the 31-30 club.
So week 14 here against the Colts. And again, motioning into that tight split with these 3. We've seen that a bunch of times now. We just talked first window, second window type stuff.
Yeah, it looks like they got kind of like a double over with the post route. And he does a good job here. I mean, he's supposed to be I'm assuming he's probably supposed to be running an over route to get to the other hash. But then all of a sudden, he just kind of sees where that backer is running with the first over, and he does a great job right here at this point. He's 3 yards behind that Mike linebacker right there. And he's going to end up in front of both these linebackers on his route right here, coming back into the ball.
Bends that thing right in there. It's about sitting in a void.
Yeah.
And then goes up,
ends up,
gets it.
Yeah, underneath of both of them.
So again, guys, when you're talking about the mental processing piece of this stuff, again, these are the things we're like, well, how do you judge mental processing in a receiver? Because if a guy doesn't understand the concepts of the play and the coverage, he's not going to bend it in there. And still manages to fight forward for 2 yards. He keeps his feet, man. It's something else.
Yeah, it's just, body control is just. And I think that's a little bit underrated when it comes to evaluating wideouts. Is just, how can they control their body? Because you can teach people to put their, nose over the toe, not sit back as much, if they have good body control. If they don't have good body control, you're not going to get them out of how they get out of a break. If they're a lean back guy, it's tough to fix if they don't have very good body control.
So we get into a 3rd and 8 here. Tampa's trying to make a comeback on Indy here in the 3rd quarter. We actually have a different quarterback in the game here. Griffin comes in. I think Jameis hurts his thumb. Let's see what opportunities we have here with a different quarterback. Whew.
I mean, this is unfair almost. They get the DB is off. He's not using his hands. So, you got kind of, he gets on his outside. Now, again, I guess there's a reason between starter and backup, right? Because there's no reason to think, based off of what this route concept looks like, there's no reason to think that he's going to break out. Now, I don't know if he thinks, okay, I'm going to put it on his outside shoulder because that guy's inside leverage, but everything tells me this guy's breaking back inside. And since he's an all-pro and I'm a backup, I'm going to go where I think he's going to go, not where I think he should go.
Yeah, that should have been a completion and moving the sticks. He puts that thing inside.
Well, there's a lot of background noise. There's 4 kids, a dog, and my wife running around here somewhere. So there could be background. You could hear all kinds of things going on.
Listen, we're all living that life right now. I got 3 toddlers moving around in the house. I'm surprised no one has busted in the door during one of these yet. So I know it's coming. I'm going to have that. Was it the guy from BBC or whatever? He's on the broadcast there, and the kid comes rolling in. I'm going to have that.
Well, my dog, I got a yellow lab, and then there's some huskies that walk the neighborhood with, they go for a walk, and for whatever reason, he doesn't like them, so he starts barking. Then I got my son making protein shakes, and then I got my 2 little ones trying to clean up, and then it's a handful.
So at least Godwin gets Jameis back here in this situation. So we've gotten past the Griffin situation here in this game. And just again, I wanted to get your take on expanding here against that, because that's a heavily leveraged corner out there for an outbreak.
See, here you go. Doorbell rings. Dog goes crazy because he can't stand the dog.
We know we got numbers on this thing. Guys, send in your pictures of your dog or your video of your dog going crazy. We want to hear from you on this one since you're hearing from us.
Yeah, people think what's going on. But here, I mean, again, I have a hard time since I've coached wideouts and quarterbacks and been a coordinator. I don't understand why this ball is thrown here, because this is a cover 2 look. It's a zone blitz. And that corner's not bailing. This out route, I know they throw and catch it, but that ball should be thrown to that drag route right there on the hash. Bang. Because that linebacker underneath is expanding out underneath of this out route. So I can't really say anything about Godwin because, he's trying to expand that corner, but that's a soft cover 2 corner. He's not going to expand and be able to get outside in that situation.
Sure.
So I'm throwing it to one of these 2 guys on the hash right here. I'm going to read that underneath. I'm going to read the number 2 defender off the blitz and sit there and say, okay, if that guy's going out, I'm throwing it inside.
And that's again one of the things I wanted to see with these scenarios where these corners are playing it like that. There's just not an opportunity to give the wide receiver a hard time on that. There's really no good way to operate in that situation. It's just
and he does the same thing on the other side. It's the same thing. It's a soft cover 2 shell.
So we got here Tampa's down 4 red zone, fourth quarter, under 4 minutes to go, 1st and 10. And bring that back.
He's up top, right?
Yeah.
He's in the back of the stack.
Yep.
All right, so same thing. Watch him, so just like in the other one, not knowing how are they going to play the stack? Now they're more pressed out on him than they were earlier, where they had that, when they went that shadow technique. They still play shadow here, but they play it differently. But he gets into a trail technique right here, and this guy has no chance with him breaking out because he's playing from outside in. So he's having to play chase because if he ran the over route, he's got to go cover.
And I'm just fascinated by that body position.
Stealing right here.
Come out as flat as he does.
Yeah, to me, he doesn't even need to come out that flat on this one. He could run to the back pylon with the concept that they have right here. I'd rather him run to the back pylon just because it's an easier throw for the quarterback.
I got you.
But it looks like maybe he's sitting down, so maybe he had kind of like an option route or something like that. Maybe, I don't know.
He just does such a great job there from that standpoint of that particular release. Just had such a feel for it.
Yeah, I mean, he just, a lot of that comes on, film study, because we talk our guys when we get in a stack, and more than likely we're going to get this type of coverage. So it just comes from film. It's perfecting your craft again. It's another aspect of it.
So I believe this is our last play here, Week 15 at Detroit. He's number 2 here on this 3rd and 9. Gets that press look, outside leverage.
He just does a good job of working and getting vertical.
Again, just stacking so many tools together on this one.
Yeah.
Gets him outside, gets him flipped, goes vertical, breaks it right back in.
Makes him move his feet, which is the key to any kind of press release.
I don't know why you'd give this guy any space or opportunity to move, because he's just proven over and over again to be so good at manipulating space.
Yes, what do they got? 3rd and 9, 3rd quarter. I mean, you see such. If you really think about it, we haven't seen a bunch of different coverages. Seen some different techniques from guys. But most of the people play either some form of 2, whether it's Tampa or not, or some form of drop down safety into the, kind of one robber look. They're trying to bracket guys and run with outside guys. So. It's just a little bit of a different game, but the more you can manipulate guys with your stems and your nods and things like that, obviously the better you're going to be.
So, Coach, again, really, really pumped to have you on this one. I know I got notes from this one. I hope everybody else does too. Just all the things that Godwin did to build that separation. Just what are your kind of final thoughts after wrapping him up?
I think that one of the things is you can tell he spends time in the film room because of how he can manipulate the DBs that he's going against that day. He kind of worked different teams different ways. So I'm sure he kind of self-scouts himself a little bit from the standpoint of, okay, for a couple of weeks when I've had outside leverage, I've done this, but this guy likes to play me, this way, so I'm going to work him a little bit differently than I did before, because you saw the same types of routes with different stems. So he obviously spends a lot of time in the film room. His ability to go flat is probably as good as anybody I've seen getting out of a break. I think he does a really, really good job of 1-2 stopping. Which to me is a big thing. Now, you may have other guys on here that disagree, but to me, if you can't stop 1-2, if you have to, I tell guys all the time, if you have to beat the drum, you see receiver coaches that talk about chopping their feet and banging their hands down like they're playing the drum. If you have to stop that way, I don't think you can be very good at getting in and out of breaks. That's just my opinion. He doesn't do that. He's 1-2. I've seen guys that have better skills sometimes at getting out of a break than he does, but his ability to go flat, I haven't really seen many guys be able to do it as well as he does. But just his ability, and the reason I think he would, in my opinion, I don't get to watch a lot of football NFL-wise unless it's guys I've coached or whatnot, but he'll have a long career because he can do other things than just run by people. And I think the guys, when you lose a step at that level, that's like losing 3 steps. And if you can't do anything else, then you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be out pretty quick once you slow down. And he's got enough skill set that just if he ends up losing a step, you're not going to notice as much because he does all these other things.
I'm right there with you. And we talk about that with guys a lot because the business of scouting is about predicting the future. What's the guy going to do next? And to your point, he's got that kind of skill set or toolbox to generate separation, even when some of maybe the speed or the acceleration aren't quite the same anymore. He still should have plenty of ways to create opportunity for himself. Maybe not quite as dynamic later in his career, but he should have a lot going for him throughout that time. So right there with you from that standpoint. Well, it's been great to have you with us. I'd love to learn, help everybody else learn a little more about you and your background and, kind of where, obviously us crossing paths, but, where your career has gone.
Well, I guess it's just like any other coach's career. It's been a lot of different places. Most recently, we were here at Youngstown State. I was the offensive coordinator here at Youngstown State for the last few years. And under Bo Pelini, who decided to take a much better pay increase and go back to LSU. So we're more of a free agent looking around right now. But I had 2 different stints at UMass. That was I was a GA at Virginia Tech for Coach Beamer back in the mid-'90s when kind of all those bowl games. And Virginia Tech, if you want to put up the quote signs, when they became Virginia Tech. We went to the Orange Bowl, we went to the Sugar Bowl. And then I took a job at UMass, which was my first job, and was there for 6 years and coached. That's really kind of where I got my feet wet because I coached receivers and tight ends and quarterbacks. I played quarterback in college, played quarterback for my dad in high school. So, that's kind of where I am. That's who I am. But, kind of taught receivers from the standpoint of a quarterback because I think that's important for them to understand what's the quarterback thinking. I had obviously a bunch of talented guys because we won the national championship and, that was good. And then I went down to Louisiana Lafayette and coached receivers down there as a passing game coordinator down there for a few years and was around some really, really good players. One of our guys was not like he was, you get into those comparisons, and I'm sure in your profession you have to do it, but you get into those comparisons of who is this player like or whatnot. But I had a guy down there named Fred Stamps who was as good as I've ever been around. But when he came out, which would have been about 2003, 2004, the wide open kind of all the man routes. The NFL game still wasn't totally designed for the offense to get away with everything, and it wasn't as spread and wide open as it is now. Had he come along 4 years later, I think he would have been one of the most impressive wideouts you've ever seen because he went up to Canada and played for like 12 years and was like one of the all-time leading receivers in the history of the CFL. But he was unbelievable. You want to talk about ball skills and being able to manipulate guys. I mean, he was as good as I've ever seen. And then obviously I went back to UMass. That's where our paths crossed. I went back there and coached receivers. And then from that point, it's been a little bit of a journey. We were in Division III for a year. We were in Nebraska for a year, and then we came to Youngstown State. So we've covered many a miles.
We're excited to see you back somewhere. And in the meantime, we'd like to keep you around here as much as possible and help people learn from you. Because like I said, you've been a heck of an asset to me, and I've learned a ton from you over the years. So hopefully we can help share the wealth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, my father was a head football coach, high school coach. My 2 brothers are both football coaches. So there's not a lot of time that we're not sitting around talking football. So to be quarantined and not talk football, I mean, it's like a whole new world for me. Not one I'm particularly enjoying, but spending time, you know how it is. Spending time with the family is always a good thing. So
Absolutely. Well, you go take care of those kids and that dog, and we really appreciate having you.
I appreciate it, man. You guys do a good thing. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you again next time.